Just arrived. She's in the building. She's no stranger to SOS Radio. I think she's part of SOS now, but she's here. Good morning to MP Weever. How are you doing this morning?
Boy, the titles came back. Good morning, everybody. Happy
Yeah,
New
the title
Year.
came back.
Happy New Year. No longer Ludi.
No,
MP Weever.
That's right, SOS Radio 95 yours. My guest just arrived. She's in the building. She's no stranger to SOS Radio. I think she's part of SOS now, but she's here. Good morning to MP Weever. How are you doing this morning?
Boy, the titles came back. Good morning, everybody. Happy
Yeah,
New
the title
Year.
came back.
Happy New Year. No longer Ludi.
No,
MP
Ludi.
Weever. Good morning.
Yeah, that Ludi
So,
thing. The tart and the pudding finish now.
Yeah, and the ham, the Christmas ham.
Yeah.
But good morning. Thank you for having me here. And so just so the public knows, I wasn't late. I was outside on time. And then I said I was hungry, so let me go pick up a pain of chocolate and a croissant for him with some water. So that's why. That's why. Because I know I'm going to be hungry halfway through when you're talking, and then I'm going to take a bite fast. So.
That ain't no problem. You can take, well, your customer eating tart and pudding and cake.
I know. We did have a lot of food here this year.
A lot of fun. How was the holidays?
Christmas itself was quiet because my family worked. You know, if your family is in hospitality, like, or in retail, and you know, something tourism related, hospitality related. You know, you're trying to make up for a year that I think was very hard for most people. So my family worked. So I was very quiet.
Wow.
So we didn't get together until dinners. But like most people, it was a regular day on the Dutch side. You know, they had some ships in, and again, most of the time that day is a day that we all stay home together and eat together and be together from morning until night.
Correct.
But a lot of people worked, so it didn't really feel like the holiday spirit. So
yeah. You also got a break from parliamentary holidays.
Yes, that was about 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, about 2 weeks maybe. Yeah, so we are going back in session tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So is the first parliamentary meeting is tomorrow?
The first meeting is tomorrow, yes.
Yeah. Anything that is going to be on the topic for tomorrow?
So yeah, I can tell you right now if you want me to go.
But I wanted to run that fast because there's other things I want to ask you.
Yeah,
So
tomorrow is it's in my schedule. So it's some continuation of a meeting around the central bank, Enya and Mullaby. And then I know that we have some question hours coming up as well. Well, oh my gosh, I'm gonna say this since it's in my schedule. So we have the one with the basic banking law that's coming up in the morning, and then there's another meeting for approval of a delegation of members to travel to something, and then there's a meeting with the Minister of Finance and the Minister of TEAT over revenue generation measures and government collections.
Okay.
Which. Again, I'm sure we'll get to the topics at hand today because I have no idea what we're talking about. And
well,
I know
today, I want to go back a little bit on you, Ludmila de Weever. You're into politics. What got you into this, first of all? How did you get into politics? When was your first card for politics?
Back in 2019, and just before
That was the first time you ran?
2020 election.
First time you ran?
It was the first time, and it was, you know, I had been back home for 2 years after Irma, working with GB. So I was very frustrated because I'm not a complainer.
Yeah.
I'm a doer. I'm a person that like executes things, that likes to see productivity. I like to see action happen. I like to see people doing stuff. I'm a very hard worker. I do 1,000,001 things, and people always tell me the same thing all the time, that you're always busy with doing something, and it's something that a trait that I picked up from my family. I mean, my family is a family of very hard workers.
Yeah.
I mean, look, my parents are working Christmas Day in retail, you know. Right. So, and they're in their 60s and 70s, and they're still working. But it's in our blood. We're hard workers.
The first time you ran, you got elected.
No, the first time I ran, I wasn't elected. The party that I was with, which was up. We only won 4 seats in Parliament, but because they were part of the coalition or the formation of the government, I was the 5th in line with votes. It was a very short campaign for me as well. I had basically told no one that I wanted to run. I just didn't want to complain and not try to make a difference in government. So I was the fifth highest vote getter on the party, and then I had an option of, well, do you want to be a minister? And we have these two options, and I said I go in with what I know in a territory that is new for me, which is public sector. So I went in as the minister of TIA.
Yeah. So you got appointed in your
Correct.
first appearance as
Correct.
minister of TIA.
Correct.
When you enter politics, what was your when you get there now, what was your objective for St. Martin? What did you wanted for this country?
What I saw was, people that weren't empowered, people that weren't doing well. I saw a country that was this beautiful place, is this beautiful place, but we weren't doing a very good job of maintaining it.
Okay.
And so when you look at the size of St. Martin, hello, morning, darling. When you look at the size of St. Martin, the way that I grew up in this country, where you grew up with a humongous middle class, which is unheard of in most of the Caribbean. You had an island where people were really doing well. And I'm talking about both sides of the island back then.
You're talking about the middle class.
Our middle class was huge, let's
Correct.
be real.
Correct.
But come on, how many people we know in my parents' generation that owned their own home and could easily do it, making salaries that were unheard of. To today, compared to today. And I just, I look at my parents when they had 4 kids. My mom was 27 with 4 children. And I was like, how did you do this? How did you guys build your own home? Like, how did you? So you listen to it, and yes, the cost of living and prices of everything goes up every year. But I just I could not comprehend how my island was struggling in what it looked like, and it was struggling in how the people were living. And I'm talking about the St. Martiners in general. So that's what got me in. I didn't want to complain about the state of affairs without having a story to tell people. I saw a dissolution of community. For me, community is very, very important. This sort of collection of people, this connection with people, that is very important to me. And the first time I spoke, I remember saying, it's about community and connection. We're all connected, and if we don't look out for each other, we're going to fail as an island.
Correct.
And I do believe that it's still very much a threat, because the connection that I'm looking for is a connection not just with everyone living on this island and committed to this island. So I'm going to not talk about where you're born and all of that. Anyone that's living here, I want people to have an equal opportunity to survive, to be successful, to thrive. And quite frankly, I'm not seeing that on the Dutch side as well.
You got an opportunity to do something. You were a minister of TIA. You got an opportunity. Did you get to do something about what you just said?
Oh, absolutely. Like, let me tell you, I'm very happy for that differentiation. When I did my job, I didn't care what your name was. I didn't care who you voted for, or who we think you voted for. You were a St. Martiner, you live here, you deserve 100% equal treatment, fair treatment with anything I did. Anybody can tell you that every time they called me, I could return their call and I could actually process what it is they were looking for. I didn't need people to pay me under the table, because I'm all against that stuff. I didn't need no special treatment. I didn't need, champagne tables and free dinners and all these little things that come with the territory that get people in trouble and kind of put them either in jail or somewhere else where they don't exist anymore. I didn't do that stuff. At my core, I wanted to look out for my people of this island, do it fairly, do it equally, and make sure that every single person understood that they were equally important in
But
my
when the
life.
St. Martin is telling you, when the St. Martin is saying, look out for the St. Martin, you said you were across the board.
It's anyone that's here legally,
Yeah.
anybody that's here legally. And to be honest, I want to take a story. I want to take this exactly to where my complaint is right now to this day. And we're talking about St. Martiners, and I'm talking about persons that are from here, that were born here, that are here for a long time, married maybe to someone from a different island, a different country somewhere, and they are here making their living, have their business and all of that. And sometimes what I see, well, not sometimes, what I am seeing now is that when you are looking at the fact that we are a tourism-based island as our main source of income, we are accommodating to an outsider more than we are to an insider. And I'm saying, when you look at St. Martin's, my uncle Toto Alex told me, I said, Toto, how you does this find out? He said, you don't got nowhere else you could be. He said, that's how I have to look at it now. There's nowhere else you could be. So I said, but what do you mean? People always leaving to get a job somewhere else. He said, no. He's like, you can't. He's like, you don't have anywhere else you can be. He said, if you go somewhere, he's like, if you go to another country, you have to try to get a visa to be there legally or somehow. It's a big, tedious job. He said, you don't have a place. He's like, you don't have another choice of where you could be. He's like, that's what I look at as a St. Martin. And I said, well, I was like, that's a really interesting definition of it. But what is happening on the Dutch side, right? You can tell me about it, friend side wise. What's happening on the Dutch side is that we tend to pay attention to foreigners with money, but you got St. Martiners with money. We tend to pay attention to foreigners who requested land for purposes, but we got St. Martiners with land who want to do something with their land. We complaining that we don't have affordable housing, but when you have locals who want to go into affordable housing, you're stopping them, but you're opening the red carpet for someone else who is a foreign investor. I'm not against foreign investors. That's how most St. Martiners made their living. That's how we had a lot of the French side people working in Mullaby. That's how we had a lot of the Dutch side people working in Mullaby. My father started his job, besides shining shoes and passing out newspapers, at a hotel here with someone who paid for his education when he first left this island. And everyone knows that's the Concord Hotel. Everyone knows that he paid for multiple persons here. But what I am seeing and what is bothering me right now is the amount of persons from here that have land that want to do good and are not given the equal opportunity as a foreign investor into our island, who we love and appreciate as well, that I have a problem with.
But they're not given
and
the
I'm
opportunity.
talking about it with tax holidays.
Yes, but they're not given the opportunity because of government. Because I closed-mindedness, call you being closed-minded, call it lack of experience, call it intentional. There's something intentional that you're doing to keep your people down. But when we say you're talking the government, though.
Well, yes, I'm not saying you, Billy.
But we're talking the government. But then you're part of. Well, you're not part of government. You're today an MP.
I am an MP, and quite frankly, one of the things that I am reviewing is whether or not we start really looking at how we can restrict certain things in the country. And what that means is, you talk about affordable housing, but then you allow companies that aren't registered here to own property. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Because then I'm going to go back to what Toto Alex say. Do they have a choice that they have nowhere else they could be except here? No, they do. They have a choice, and that choice comes because they're not registered here. So all of this I'm looking into personally, as in, well, if you are not, let's say, as a Council of Ministers executive branch, if you are not looking out for your own people, I have a table when it comes to legislation that I will go and I could lobby with all of my colleagues and MPs and say, hey, we run a risk a lot of the time that when you have foreign companies registered elsewhere that own property in St. Martin, you're not forcing them to be registered here, be committed here sometimes. Does that work for us? Does that help us? Does it give us more power to be able to go to that person and equally collect from them as we do our locals or residents or permanent residents who are tax-paying citizens?
Correct.
This is where you get creative in your position of parliament.
Yeah.
As well, I don't really feel executive is looking out for our own. Executive is signing off on tax holidays for either existing hotels that maybe had been bought out from a previous one, but they're not constructing anything new. There's a clear-cut rule. The rule when it comes to tax holidays is you have to invest around 250,000 guilders and employ 5 persons. If that is the rule for tax holidays, and you have local property owners
Correct.
who want to develop their land,
why are you stopping them?
Take a cut on their profit, and then make affordable housing for young professionals. Why are you stopping them? Why are you stopping those persons? Is it because is it too good for locals to do that, and only someone from off island?
So
this is where as an MP, you have to think.
Correct.
You have to think outside the box. Absolutely.
Between brackets.
But you have to be brave too.
Your vision is not the vision of the executive right now. Then.
Well,
their vision and your vision does not concur.
I do believe that the executive is struggling because of the realities of government, and part of those struggles have to do with, having ministers that are new to their job. There is an exodus of a lot of civil servants who are the knowledge, who are the experts, but they have maybe had a bad taste in their mouth, and they've left for greener pastures because government is not moving forward.
Yeah.
But let me bring it back to a very, very important point, and why I understand why civil servants are, there's this mass exodus of them. If every year you are being told by the government as a minister to cut your budget by millions, how do you expect to accomplish anything when your budget is continuously being cut?
Correct.
It means you all need to really take a step back, look at, some new projects that we want to get into. We may not have the resources to put all the money behind it. Let's just take a step back and look at what's happening to us. Why are we struggling? Why every year we telling ministers you have to cut millions and millions? How you expect to do anything?
You couldn't work with what you had already. Now you're asking me to cut it.
Yes, because then you can't be surprised when ministers can't do their job.
Correct.
Because you continuously are cutting their budget. But then when you are behind in your financial statements, in your actual spending, and you're doing frivolous spending, you don't have no control of your money, how are you surprised that nothing gets done?
Correct.
It's not just this administration. It's the story you heard every administration. But what's happening is it's for the last 2 years, we've had problematic budgets. The 2025 budget has to come back for the third time to Parliament. We are now in 2026.
Correct.
That's not coming until February. Then you have the 2026 budget that's not coming until maybe May. But let's be honest. The core job is for you to make sure that you can do what you need to do for your country, and that means you have to spend your money wisely. How do you think stuff's gonna happen when nothing is approved?
Yeah.
You know what I understand? It is my understanding that everything is on a standstill.
Yeah.
I have not received the confirmation, but I know because I've been there and I know how it works.
Correct. You being a minister.
Nothing's gonna get signed off if the budget isn't finalized, because things have to go on to the governor's office. So how is the governor gonna sign off on something if it's not in the budget? He'll be doing something illegal, which is what happened last year with the budget anyways. With certain spending, it was illegal. Let's be real. So the pressures that you're feeling now in this coalition or in the council of ministers is their hands are shackled.
Are their hands shackled, or are
their
they
hands are shackled by their own actions?
That's what I'm saying to you. Or are they in disagreement?
It doesn't matter about disagreement. We're gonna get to that on another point. If you're gonna decide that the priority for you is to focus on the disagreements between 4 different parties in a coalition rather than what you need to do for your country, then you have to reconsider, take that self-reflection and understand whether or not you're in the right job.
Correct.
Because the priority here right now is you cannot complain that you don't have any money. You're being told to cut because that's the reality of our situation. You cannot complain when you are not taking the decisions to actually make sure that you can operate properly. If you all over the place like a headless chicken, then this is what happens. This is a proof of headless chicken. But I said something, I had an interview last week, and I said that the ministers need to just take some time to self-reflect, especially as we're starting a new year, and look at the reality of where we are. Expedite the budget, help each other out. The competing thing with each other doesn't work, because when you're competing with each other for limelight, when you're competing with each other for popularity, then you're that's kind of childish,
Correct.
It's a little. You can't get upset when there's let's say crossover of certain responsibilities within ministries, and you can't get upset over that.
But I want to say this though, and I got to give credit to the Minister of Justice said from day one, from the day she was elected, said her budget is she doesn't have enough money.
Because
she made it clear. Yet though, it was announced that we're gonna build a $52 million prison.
And that came from different. The sources of money came from somewhere else.
Yeah, but when you're saying you ain't have
that.
no money, there's a lot of little things to do when you're announcing that you're gonna build a $52 million prison. You still surprise the crowd. The crowd is still surprised.
The reason you surprise the crowd is that if you don't explain the crowd properly, that the source of that money is coming from the Netherlands and the Netherlands Ministry of Defense, whether it's their Justice Ministry, it's coming from a source, UN, right? Because it's called UN. I know it's UNOPS. I'm just saying different sources where it could potentially come from for a specific use. Whether it's World Bank, that's also applicable. This is a specific use
for a specific thing.
Yes,
yeah.
And
you can't do nothing else but do what that is supposed to be done.
Because it was.
But what about a minister saying, "Yeah, but I have other needs, though. Why don't you help me? Why don't we open up our mind on a broader scale and say, I still need this, though. Why put 52 million here when I still need to get these other things fixed?"
Again, Billy, I will tell you, this is where it goes to you having conversations with experts, knowing what your community needs, knowing what your country needs, and not being sort of pigeonholed into one thing. For me, I don't know everything, but I spend my time talking with people that know stuff. And it takes a lot of time to sit down with people, to listen to the stories, to listen what we need. Surround yourself by the experts. The danger that a lot of ministers have, sometimes they go in and they have one thing they want to focus on only, and they forget the actual job.
Exactly.
One thing I will say, and it's also one of the challenges that I saw myself, that I see even in the way that they communicate in a newspaper sometimes in press briefing, and even in parliament meetings. The Council of Ministers, they have their core responsibilities, which is their ministry. Optimize your ministry operation. Optimize the way it functions. Make sure that people have everything they need to do their job to the best of their ability in the right environment. But what happens is ministers get sidetracked as well too with government-owned companies. The way they're set up to run on their own with an intermediary board between the government and the company. But if you think that you're going to get popularity or the limelight from dealing with a government-owned company because we used to use them as piggy banks for little projects, then that's where the distraction starts. And I continuously remind my peers and my coalition partners that that your core task is the ministry work. That's make the ministry shine.
Yeah.
Depend on the civil servants. They're called the fourth pillar for a reason. Depend on them for the work. Do not get distracted by picture taking. Do not get distracted by making it look like you're doing work and then you're not completing something. And I even went so far beforehand as saying, for now, focus on something. In a parliament meeting when the Minister of Justice said exactly that, I don't have enough money to do exactly what I want to do to make this ministry where it is.
Sure.
But you have to focus on some key things in the meantime until you get that there. It is every minister's responsibility to come up with revenue generating measures. Yeah. And for instance,
could every ministry generate funds though?
Absolutely, you can. Absolutely, you
can.
Can.
Give me an example.
I'm going to give it to you for justice because you just asked me about justice, and this is where the overlap happens across ministries. So justice can make money when their police are issuing fines, right?
Correct.
Now, one of the things I complain about every day, the poor minister of theatre is sick of getting my pictures of how dirty town look, how disorganized town looks. But what works very well is for you to make a small adaptation in the law to allow, whether you want to call it meter maids, to be able to clamp cars that are parked on the sidewalk, and they can't move off of the sidewalk until that meter maid comes with their ATM machine. Not ATM machine, the credit card machine. So you could use your Bankomatico, your debit card, or your credit card, and you pay on the spot in order to release your car. That little meter maid can be on a golf cart driving around the city continuously, making sure no one is parking illegally. Do you know how much money Curacao makes on that, man? It's amazing. And the reason I know is because I lived in Curacao. So when I would park up in let's say on the main road close to where the Parliament building is, I had a client there, and there was the parking meters that you put money in, and it was you want to park right there in front, it's going to be a little pricey, right? If you want to go in the public parking space, then it's maybe $5 a day, $2.50 for the 8 hours I'm at the client. But that's a easy way to make money that will go into the coffers of justice,
Correct.
as well as the coffers of,
Yeah.
I would say VRAMI,
Yeah.
because it has to do with road works,
Correct.
road signage. So you can, but you're right, even TEA, because it will basically make their town look more organized. They will assign parking spaces, but the two main focus for me was really VRAMI and justice.
Yeah.
But so every ministry has to sit with their people and say, can we make money off of this? One of the ministries, I believe, that make the least amount, that use the most the most amount of money almost, would be education. So when you think about education, how can a ministry of education make money? That's the one that's the hardest one, because it's either
you can't charge your parents to send them to charge school. I mean,
no,
yeah.
but the way that it works in other countries is that your taxes from your, let's say, your county or your district go into the schooling system. But what is happening in St. Martin is that a lot of people don't pay school fees, because while we have compulsory education, it's not necessarily free.
Correct.
It's not like France. It's not like the French side. The public schools are cheaper, yes, and maybe they're supposed to be assigned as free, but then when you go into it and start doing the research, they call it a contribution. They don't call it tuition. They call it a contribution, but it's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable model when your ministry is not making enough money to give subsidies to the schools, because you're sharing it out all over the place to subsidize school, to public schools, and the Catholic school board has it too. But if you're not 100% public school, depending 100% on government, you really need to reassess.
But that's a ministry. That's a ministry that needs money. Yeah, that's a ministry that needs a lot of money.
But the thing is, if you're cutting the money of the ministry continuously, and the ministry themselves are not going to make a decision on, guys, we can't sustain this model.
But
we can't.
We keep cutting the budget, but the ministers keep trying to work with this little bit of money. Why don't they make noise? Why don't they make sense? Say, listen, we can't do it. It just can't happen.
Because most people don't like to be unpopular. So I'll give you a perfect example. When parliamentarians come with motions or they come with amendments during the budget debate, and they say, I want to put money here, put money in a project here, the ministers appease them because it's a popular project that's going to make them look good, make them look like they're accomplishing something, but it's something that's not sustainable. And it's also the fault of the minister to not know what they have to be able to tell the parliamentarian, good job, parliamentarian MP. This is an excellent idea. I'm going to incorporate it into our budget for next year. And actually, I'm not even going to wait until next year. I'm going to incorporate it into the budget this year, which means my budget needs to come back to Parliament fast, so that you can approve it, and then I could do your project. That's how it's supposed to work in a normal place. But if we're behind in our budgets, Billy, how are we going to be catching up, but we're still behind?
Yeah.
So we can never catch up because we're done behind.
Yep. You spoke a lot about experts, and we need to speak to experts.
The experts are the civil servants who know what they're doing.
But who are these experts? Are they St. Martiners? Are they people from abroad? Do we look for experts from abroad? Who do we look for?
It's a combination of them. It's a combination of them.
So
if we don't chase our good workers, our good St. Martin workers, because we're constantly budgeting them or we're undermining their authority.
That's what I'm about to ask you. Are we using the expertise, the local expertise?
No. I personally have seen this. I've seen it in the past 5 years that I've been in government, in executive and outside. We have a very good way of really messing with our own locals when they are educated, when they have the correct degrees, and then you're gonna say you're surprised why nobody else wants to come home to work for less than where they are, and when they do, you undermine them. And then instead, you lead a situation to be where an outsider will apply because the local left, and the local's like, why am I dealing with this in my own country? We should be working together.
We hear this a lot.
You should not be undermining me. And I've seen it up until this year, the last 4 months.
You're one though that is, we got to give you credit. You're very vocal in Parliament, but we saw in some decision making where people was expecting where you would have voted for something and you said no, you walked up to the meeting, for example.
I never walked out of a meeting.
There was a vote in one time where you I think it was on there was an issue one time where you didn't go along with it.
You mean, are you talking about the Feeding the Children program?
That was one.
The Feeding the Children program is something that we already knew existed. And let me remind the public that when Regina Labega was in charge of the airport, she was feeding schools. When MP Otley was then minister, we already knew that there was a pilot project about feeding children in school. When we all went out to go read to the schools in the month of September for Literacy Month, we all saw that some children were crying in classrooms because they didn't have breakfast in the morning. So why are you going to present something to me in Parliament?
That was
call it a pilot project. A pilot project is something that you do for trial to make sure that you have a reason to continue it. So everybody in Parliament voted for it. I voted against it to take a stance. It was a protest vote. We are allowed to do that to get attention to the topic. And here we are now, months later, after the vote of the budget, and you're asking me about it. And the reason you're asking me about it is because I did my job of a protest vote. A protest vote is to get attention to something. Why are we wasting our time doing something that is in a short term popular when we know the issue exists? I spoke about this with the Minister of VSA, which is public health. I spoke about this with the Minister of, with MP Roseberg, who is the one that initiated it. I'm not against it. I mean, I had people writing about me in a newspaper about it. I said, do you guys not understand? Former politicians, I said, do you not understand a protest vote? Don't waste my time. Don't waste the people's time pretending that you're looking at an issue as it's the first time we know about it. Our people are hungry. Our students are hungry. So why are you giving me 50,000 guilders for something that we know is a reality? It's a 50,000 guilders maybe gonna last me a month or two, maybe, not even across all schools. So think about a longer lasting project. I don't want you to come and tell me there's short-term thinking. Short-term thinking is why our country is struggling.
Correct.
So that's probably what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I never, ever did in 2025 walked out from a meeting. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I did not walk out from a meeting. I did some very risque votes to get attention onto the fact that we need to be a little bit more conscious in the way that we do our work and stop trying to fool the Samaritan people off in this short-term presentation or a short-term picture of an accomplishment. Right. Because if we're not thinking long-term, then we're going to get in a big problem.
When I listen to you, MP, I sense that you're saying we have a government that is not functioning properly. Is that what I'm sensing?
Lord, you're putting words in my mouth.
No, it's not word in your mouth, but I'm sensing that we don't have a government that is working properly. What do we need to do?
It's not that I don't share ideas on what they have to do. And most of the time when I'm sharing ideas, it's not the first time I'm saying it. I'm repeating it. My personality has not changed from when I was in government beforehand with a different administration to now. But if you are not going to take the advice of persons, then it's like, who don't hear this feel? And I always share if I have an idea. I always share if I have a reservation. I share. People know my position in terms of with my coalition partners. If you choose not to listen to it, then what happens most of the time is that becomes a reality, and then I'm not gonna say I told you so. Somebody somewhere in the public is gonna remind you.
Yeah.
But you didn't tell I about that, and now you didn't listen. I'm here to work for my people.
Because
so
I saw you give a lot
people,
of ideas. Even on
I
GB
do.
issue, you have a lot of ideas, but there was not that follow up on saying, okay, let's follow what Ludi is saying here.
And because people want to make their own mark, and this is what I tell everyone. I said, I'm not going to hold back on ideas when it's good for my country because of the fact that it needs to help my country. So, but again, if you're not going to listen, I will remind you in Parliament. I'll hold you accountable in Parliament. What I want to see this government accomplish, which I will remind them when they come to Parliament, is just walk around your island, drive around your island, and just look at just the aesthetics. Just look at what it looks like.
Yeah.
And then when you look at it, and here, let me give them more ideas on revenue generation. When I drive around St. Martin, I see so many more signs, business signs on the side of the road. So much so that a person can't walk because it's so close to the road. So when you see this abundance of signs, what they need to, well, maybe what the Ministry of Brahmin should look at is, well, we have a bunch of signs, and normally they have to ask us permission, especially if it's within 4 meters of the road. Huh?
Correct.
So if you see all these signs going up, I hope to God Brahmi gets in some revenue from that. So I'm going to give...
But Brahmi was taking down signs in Simpson Bay a couple months ago.
But
they were
you
taking
have
down
to,
the same signs.
But aesthetically, you have to look at the island.
Yeah.
Because for me, what I see with signs is when you pass in signs, they also block traffic.
Correct.
So, and then...
And it could cause accidents.
And then when you go into Tayat, exactly, it goes into Tayat in terms of how the island looks. It goes into justice in terms of an unsafe situation being created. But it's all across the island. You look at, you have, and I'll give you another example. A long-term vision is, you drive around the island, you're like, man, we really don't have sidewalks in certain areas of Cold Bay, Union Road. We really don't have sidewalks in certain parts of Sucker Garden. Eventually, where do I want to see my island? Well, I would love to see a sidewalk on the side of my roads on both sides so that people can safely move through their neighborhoods, because public transportation is a big part of our existence. But then how do I get to creating the space where I need sidewalks? It means eventually I will have to ask the homeowners that build on the road, because they existed there before the road come in, and say,
but it can't move again though.
No, I'm going to say, well, hey, Mr. Billy D, I see that about a meter of your home is right next to the road. And because I'm planning for the future, I would love to be able to purchase that from you and put in a sidewalk. Do you think that's a possibility? Because your house isn't on the road, but your yard is.
Yeah.
Can I compensate you for that? That's the long-term thinking we have to have. Your long-term thinking has to be, what do I want to see my country look like in the future?
Correct.
Not, so all we're doing is patch jobs.
Yeah.
And the government, this government or any government, will never be successful if all we're doing is patch jobs. They have to have a long-term way of thinking and saying how we're going to get there. But you also need to be like, guys, we ain't getting no money in, and all you making me do is cut. This ain't working.
But let me ask you this, Ludi. When people decide after election to come together to form a coalition, isn't it to work together with the same goal, mind, and attitude? Because we have a coalition today that are disagreeing with each other. You're talking about Rumi.
Disagreement is normal.
Rumi minister comes from your party.
I didn't complain about him.
Yeah,
I was giving you ideas.
Yeah, give ideas. But today, Rumi, I don't feel Rumi anymore. I don't feel Rumi doing things that Rumi's supposed to do. And I know you have ideas in Rumi, for example.
I have ideas in every ministry.
But why don't these ideas come to you? The minister and says, listen, let's do this. And it's taken.
I look, ministers are independent in their thinking. You are absolutely correct.
They're independent, but they're still working as a team for a country.
When governments are formed, they make a governing accord.
Correct.
But when you're creating that governing accord, if you just filling it in fakes, and you're not focusing on core tasks, and you're easily distracted, then you won't stay on track. Correct. And I'm going to give you another example. And I'm going to say it because it needs to be said. If you're not going to pay attention to the core responsibilities of your ministry, and how, just like you said, you can think of new ways of revenue generation, fair revenue generation across the board.
Fair.
Gotta be so fair. The person, every person, don't look at, I'm talking about people with a signs on the side, everything. You just fair revenue generation to everyone. It's not about who you know that on call and be like, I don't want my sign there forever. It's fair across the board. Explain to the country what your challenges are. If you're not doing this in your ministry, then something's going to happen, and it's going to come to a head, and you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it either in your popularity, or you're going to feel it in the next election. But I cannot accept the fact that you could be let's say a council of ministers who take a new idea and think that a new idea is going to make all of the country rich and everybody millionaires. It doesn't work like that. Legislation takes a long time.
Correct.
And even when we have legislation that passed, the government is so distracted with other things, they can't even enforce the legislation we have. A perfect example of that would have been the timeshare law that my dad and Roy Mallon did. and it was called a timeshare law, but if they really look at the gist of the timeshare law, it would be protecting people that got messed up with certain projects where they bought in, like a carbon project, and they have nothing is held in escrow to protect their money. This law would have protected those people. When you look at a plastic ban, for years we waiting for the ministers responsible to set it up the way it needs to be set up to enforce it, but they're not doing it. Yet you have a council of ministers actively involved with outside parties that are not from St. Martin in thinking and fooling off the people that we're going to give the authority of a government to an external party, a foreign party, a foreign company to give out licenses. And then nobody can grow what they want. And it's craziness to me. You giving away the power of government to a foreign company, and then you telling me that company is going to give you money to all the ministries that have to make the cuts. And that has to do with marijuana, the marijuana policy that's going on that we don't know nothing about in Parliament. I have no information on that. So when you talk about revenue generation, work with your core responsibilities first before you start to go into an area that you're going to fool me off. Because let me tell you something. I am never going to support something that disenfranchises my locals. You are now selling out something and telling my locals that they don't have first dibs on it. A foreign company has first dibs on it. My locals don't have first dibs on it. My locals can't even grow nothing when this company is activated. My locals can't grow nothing. The foreign company can grow. And when they are in existence, my locals can't grow nothing. And then that foreign company have the rights, the government rights, the government power to hand out licenses. But are you sick, man? Yeah. So if your government is distracted by a money-making scheme, which is equivalent to building castles on clouds, you're in trouble. So I'm basically advising my coalition partners and this government to get our heads together and focus on the everyday problems of this country. Because I am not a minister. A minister is executive. They are the day-to-day operations. As a member of parliament, I'm going to remind the public when any minister of any administration comes in what they're doing. And I will explain and educate the public of what they're doing. And I hold you accountable for your task. But don't ask me to do their job for them, because that is not my job. I don't go storm the government building and tell people that I must give a license to this one and that one and give special treatment to the foreign investors over my local investors. That's not my way of working. And that's what bothers most people about me, is that I'm a fair worker.
Again, I'm sensing from what you say we have a corrupted government.
I did not say corrupted government.
I'm saying it. But something is wrong, Ludi, because from what you say, you know how many times you mention doing a favor for a favor? You said it a lot of times just now, you know.
You know what it is? You're the distraction of.
But distraction is money under the table, you know.
I didn't say money under the table. I'm saying in my interpretation, in my observation, I've been observing for over a year and a half, Billy. So yes, I'm active in government, but I've been observing for over a year and a half. And this is why I have said this in person to my partners. I have said this in person on the radio. I have said it to anyone who would listen to me. Get over yourself and work together. Because if you're upset when one minister covers your territory, or when another one covers the other one territory, grow up and remember that we're here to do the work of the people.
Correct.
And they're going to remind us when election come around, did you do your job? They don't have to. I'm not a minister. But the ministers are under such public scrutiny because you chose to be the day-to-day worker. Yeah. You know what the parliamentarians are? The parliamentarians are the bosses, looking to see that the ministers are doing their job. We're not there to write laws alone. If that was the requirement of Parliament, we'd have to be lawyers in order to be in Parliament.
Correct.
We're there to point out the issues of not being done. We're there to take complaints of the population. We're there to exist in our society and look at, well, let me give some ideas on this that I saw. We're there to make sure that this whole project is cohesive and goes. We're there. You know what we're there for, Billy? We're there to say your governing program say you're gonna do this, but how come things get done?
Yeah.
Your government program so that your focus is going to be on making sure that all of the island look clean. But how come you don't do it? Because I personally believe that my coalition partners in the executive branch are distracted by a castle on a cloud.
Yeah,
and let me make it very clear. Let me make it very, very clear. I'm not against anything to do with marijuana. I want to see it decriminalized. But don't do it where you're disenfranchising my people.
Yeah.
Don't do it where locals are second-class citizens in their own country because you're selling out something to somebody from another place. And then you're going to try and get involved, in the society.
And
with
it's for money again because all
with
the
the farmers,
money.
you're getting involved with the farmers, right? You're getting involved with them. You're getting involved with the NGOs, the non-profit sector. Yeah, it's nice what you're doing. Pretty picture, but it's a castle on a cloud. And you're distracting my ministers from their core task.
Correct.
Because their core task, yes, is to make is to try to generate revenue.
Yeah.
But their core task is to make their country function with the ministries that they have. But how can they do it when all of them seeing dollar signs and then they lose focus on the core issues?
Correct.
So I'm asking my coalition partners, I'm here to support you and I've been supporting you since this coalition was formed after January and since this coalition was formed after August. But I'm also allowed to speak the truth to my people when I see something going wrong.
You have to. You have to.
And I'm allowed to voice my opinion behind closed doors. And if that opinion is now timely for it to be out, it is out. You want something? I'm hearing on the road that stuff being packed gonna come, marijuana stuff gonna come to Parliament in February, and you ain't send me one thing. You tell me the details of this contractual obligation to a foreign entity who's gonna have to be paid out millions. You didn't say nothing about who tied us into this contract. You didn't say nothing about that. But your focus is on something that doesn't help the people.
Wow.
Your focus is on dollar signs, building a castle on a cloud, instead of focusing on the fact that the island felt like we didn't have a Christmas because things have been so hard. The island feels like we're not focusing on our health care because we're focusing on something else. We're not focusing on the aesthetics of how our island looks. My island don't need to be clean for tourists. My island need to be clean for me.
For me.
And let me tell you something. Every time I drive through town, every time I walk through town to the Parliament building from my parents' place, I'm ashamed of it because the state of how it looks is deplorable. It's a disgrace. And I never thought that I would say that about my own country. We have to do better. You know why everybody that's come where my parents are? It's because we keep our place clean. We just clean up the bayside. We just have the plants there, but everybody that's coming here to take pictures, and every tourist office is want to come take pictures there too.
So
because you have to show people what.
Yeah, to wrap it up quickly,
let it be your island in a beautiful place.
We're not doing a good job as we stand today. We're not doing a good job yet.
Let me tell you what Billy D wanted me to do today. Billy D wanted me to agree with him when he complained about the government. I ain't there yet.
I'm not complaining about
I'm just joking. If you want to put words in my mouth.
I'm not complaining that. Let me show you. I see a headline this morning make me laugh. MP Lewis called for restoration, preservation of food. Amsterdam.
That upsets you?
It upset me because I hear this so much time already by other people. And nothing ain't gonna happen with Food Amsterdam. Nothing ain't gonna happen.
I don't want to be a doom and gloom person. But Fort Amsterdam, that part of still belongs to government and stuff. I do believe that they're getting some funds from Holland when it comes to the slavery past and that sort of thing.
We hear that a lot already.
So maybe they can use some of the funds to restore it there. But I'm not going to knock something that should take pride in how we live. But if we can't even take pride in where we're living,
that's what I'm saying.
Physically living. How do you expect for me to take pride in my history, in my ancestry, in my heritage? So the person when your country is struggling with that, when they're struggling with identity, the person who has to take the lead is your government, whether it's Parliament or the executive, the ministers. You have to lead by example. You have to show people you take pride in how your place look, in your history, the history of your people, not just in a cultural parade for the St. Martin's Day, but you have to reflect it in how it looks. I drive with my mom, and mom say, but geez man, they can't put a coat of paint on the police station. I don't know if y'all pass police station on the side. I said, man, mom, they're gonna say they have money. But then it's true because they got to cut millions again every year. But again, where's your priority? Is your priority putting all the resources of multiple ministries who's promised millions by a new concept, a new legislation? And instead of just saying, guys, let me look at what I have to deal with. I know that the ball has to keep rolling, but you have a lot of civil servants who can work on those projects for you on the side while you're focusing on the main things to get back on track. We're not
Who do
getting
you
things
blame
back
in
on
this
track.
case? Do you blame the minister, the head of the ministry? Is the minister take the blame? Is the government
You know,
take the blame?
it's not a personal attack on a minister.
No, it's
Let
not
me
a
be
personal
very-
attack,
let me
but
be
somebody
very
got to carry
frank.
the load, though.
Let me be very frank. When we take positions in government as MPs or ministers, we are going to get the blame. That's why it's so scary sometimes to run for office, because you have to take the blame, take the blows. What happens with politicians is that they only like people to see the nice news. They only want to please people and show them the nice things. They can't take the criticism. The criticism is a very important part of the job. You have to be able to stay focused on something that is good. You can't please everybody. You're gonna get blamed. Stay focused.
Correct.
Don't forget Billy D. That when I was minister, I was called crazy for opening the country.
Yeah.
And after the country was open, everyone wanted to claim like they did it.
Yeah.
I was called crazy on the floor of Parliament because I stuck to something that was in the best interest of my people who operate, who function, who survive off of tourism. And I had to have it open. So you have to be, as a politician, to make very, very brave decisions. You think that people are going to be happy when they come and say, but my sign here for 10 years and you don't tell me nothing. But then we want to be fair. Well, sir, I know it's been there for 10 years, but we also didn't do our job of collecting for 10
Correct.
years. And right now we have to do our job. And this is where the frank conversation has to happen with people. Everyone's complaining about garbage, for instance, but then do we have the trash bins to put outside to collect on specific days, or are people still dumping all over the place? Look in town, at any time of the day, there are piles of trash because businesses, mostly businesses and residents, some residents, put their trash outside in the middle of the day. But then the trash company comes at specific times. They give you the times. So are you going to fine people for doing that? Because we have cameras all over the place.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways for us to be creative, but you have to rebuild trust with the public so that the public knows that you're not attacking me as a local, that you're going at everybody equally and fairly.
And fairly.
That is the job of government, is to
Ludmila,
be fair.
Thanks for joining us.
I could stay here talking all day,
I can
sorry.
bring you back, though. I mean, you start off the year.
I have a lot. Listen.
I got you
You
earlier.
know what? This morning, I put all my pointers down. I said, boy, we're going to get someone. He's going to take me all over the place. But I have a lot, so I think I should come back next
No,
week.
you will come back. You will come back. You will be.
Yeah, how I say, I think I should come back next week.
Yeah, I want to tell you the task and the pudding is over. So you will come back. Thanks for joining us, Ludi. So your
Thank
first
you so
parliamentary
much.
meeting is today, tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Thanks for joining
God's
us.